So let's take a look at starting the texturing process. Now, we don't have a suitcase yet, but you want to sort of build out and unwrap your model in chunks rather than a lot of the stuff you see on the internet, because you have to see the way the textures react to the way you modeled something. So you might have to tweak it and then re-unwrap it. But Substance Painter is pretty good at remembering your settings. So let's go ahead and right click on it and go to Assign New Material. And I'm just going to go with the basic Lambert. And I'm going to rename this Suitcase MTRL. And then if you ever like lose your material or whatever, right? So say you're over here in the channel logs, you can right click and go to material attributes and it'll bring it up again. So let's go ahead and do File, Export All, and let's make a folder on the desktop. And a new folder, I'm going to call it Suitcase. And with that selected, I'm going to go ahead and do Suitcase here and export all. And I went ahead and fired up Substance Painter. So let's go ahead and do View and then Reset UI so we're all looking at the same thing. I'm using 2.61. I know they just came out with an update. So I'm going to do File, New here, go to Select, and I'm going to go to Desktop and select the Suitcase model from here, and then hit OK. Now, in order to navigate, I'm going to hold Alt and rotate around. You can see here's my suitcase. Now, if you hit F2, here's F1. This shows you your UVs and your model, so it allows you to draw across. You can see the model. Here's the front, right? And in here, you can also draw on it by just left-clicking. And if you have number 1, if you don't see your brush, it'll bring it up. Number 2 is an eraser. Number 3 is projection. So I'll show you that stuff later. So now I'm just going to create a new layer on top and just delete this one. And below this, I want to do a fill layer, right? So that's this bucket here, and place it below it. And I'm just, right now it's just sort of a brown. Doesn't matter, we're not really going to use this for anything later aside from just sort of looking sort of as a base. Let's go like something like that. Now the first thing I do when I'm in Substance Painter is I always start baking out textures. So I'm going to go to Bake Textures here. Now you can use low poly mesh as high poly mesh. You can select this and it'll select the default model. But just so you can see it, I'm going to select this here and select my suitcase and it'll load it up. And I have a pretty powerful computer, so I'll just go with 2048. And I don't need ID because I'm not going to be using it. And then for ambient occlusion, it has max occluded distance. I'm just going to jank that up to 1. Let's go back to normal here, and I'm going to hit Bake Suitcase Material Textures. And I'm going to pause it while it does that. Now you might be like, well, nothing happened. Well, actually a lot happened. If you look in your texture set settings, it generated a normal map, an ambient occlusion, and a curvature map. If I look at my curvature map here, kind of highlight over that, this will show you, it'll be using this curvature to base your edge distance on, and I'll show you that in a second. So let's go ahead and add a filter. So on this empty layer here, it has nothing on it. I'll delete this one above it. I'm going to go here and I'm going to add a generator. And with that, I'm going to go over here. I'm going to do add, and I'm going to add a filter. Now for my filter, what I want to do is do baked lighting. And this is where it really takes into account these different setups. So for example, it uses your curvature map to find your edge intensity. Notice that if I hover over this again, my curvature map, it's starting to look just like it. Now I want to use this as this lighting information from here as an overlay. So I'm just going to go to pass through here and click on baked lighting again. And what's nice about this is you can adjust your cavity smoothness, your specular cavity, your ambient occlusion, which you're not going to see anything because we don't have any objects occluding into each other. And then for example, like if you yank this up, we have our edge intensity, and then we bring our smoothness up, you'll notice it'll start to fizzle out or fizz those edges. We used to have to just paint these by hand in Photoshop, so it's kind of a nice feature. So another thing I want to show you is these default materials. So I'm going to go to Smart Materials, and I'm just going to type in leather here. And I can just grab maybe this, let's see which one this is, fine aged leather. And I'm actually going to drop this above this layer here. And you'll notice that it gives it a realistic leather. And we're going to be using, and we're starting to get from that curvature map, we added a little bit of wear on those corners, right? That's from the this edge intensity here. So it's helping us to better see that. So the way I'm rotating too, by the way, is I'm holding Alt and left clicking in this view, and I can roll in and out. So it's the same as Maya. Panning is Alt and middle mouse. You can incrementally zoom. So they really use the same setup. And then same thing in here. In Photoshop, I can add a blank layer, and then on this layer, I can do just some basic painting. Say someone actually, like a kid, painted on the suitcase. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. All right, so I'm going to end this video here, and then the next one we're going to look at what a generator is and how to use it.